You might think the most important month in a resident's lease is maybe the last one, right? When it's time to renew. Well, it's not. It's actually the very first one. That's because the real relationship, the one that really decides if they're going to stay or go, is built or broken in those first 30 days. Today, we're going to dig into why that moving period is so absolutely critical and how getting it wrong has all these hidden costs that can just quietly chip away at a property's performance. And right away, here's the scale of the problem: 75%. Let that sink in for a second. That means 3 out of every 4 residents are starting their lease on the wrong foot, hitting some kind of snag, whether it's with getting the utilities turned on, making payments, or something as simple as getting the keys. This isn't some small niche issue. For the vast majority of renters, this is just the standard experience. For most people, renting literally starts with frustration. Okay, so what's the reward for actually getting this right? Well, the data is just crystal clear. When residents are happy, they are so much more likely to stay. That 71%, that is a massive lever for retention. And it all starts by smoothing out that friction we just talked about, right in that very first month. So here's a quick look at where we're headed. First, we'll unpack those first 30 days and the hidden costs. Then we'll get into the solutions, closing that expectation gap, personalizing the whole process, and even building in financial wellness. And we'll wrap it all up by looking at this entire thing as a major performance advantage. That first month is so much more than just a logistical checklist. It's the moment that sets the entire tone for the relationship. It's where you, as a property manager, prove that you're competent, you're reliable, you're professional, or you prove that you're disorganized and tough to get a hold of. This is it. This is the moment that builds or absolutely breaks loyalty. So what happens when that loyalty breaks right from the start? A resident struggling to get their Wi-Fi set up might seem like a small one-off inconvenience, but these little points of friction, they start to stack up and they compound into much bigger and way more expensive problems for the business. And here's a perfect illustration of that domino effect. A clunky move-in means more panicked calls, more emails, which just puts a huge strain on your team. It creates this negative first impression that can directly lead to them deciding not to renew a year from now. And maybe worst of all, unhappy residents don't just leave quietly. They tell their friends, they post reviews, and that can really cost you future business. Now, a huge part of this friction really comes down to a gap in expectations. Think about it. Renters are used to these seamless digital experiences for literally everything else, from banking to ordering dinner, so they expect that same level of smooth efficiency when moving into a new home. But the reality is often, very different. This chart just shows that divide so clearly. 60% of renters say digital move-in tools are important to them, but only 38% actually get them. There's this huge demand for a modern, tech-enabled process that chances are your operation might not be meeting. So it really boils down to 2 very different paths. You've got the old way, which is all manual and confusing, buried in a bunch of emails and spreadsheets. And then you have the new way, which uses technology to make the whole process digital, standardized, and just seamless. It's all about replacing resident effort with your own operational efficiency. And listen, this isn't just about making residents happy. When you standardize the move-in process with technology, you are literally pulling work out of your team's inbox. This frees them up from all those tedious admin tasks so they can focus on what really matters, like high-value resident services and building a community. It's a true win-win. But efficiency, that's only part of the solution. The next step is using all that capacity you just freed up to actually personalize the experience. Moving is just inherently stressful, right? We've all been there. This is the perfect moment for property managers to step in and be a supportive partner, not just a landlord collecting a check. And here is one of the biggest opportunities out there. Just look at this gap. 71% of renters want help coordinating essential services like utilities and internet, but only 22% of property managers are actually offering this kind of support. That leaves almost half the market with a major unmet need. It's a massive opportunity to add value and really make your properties stand out. Because think about it, when you solve these real tangible problems for a resident during a super stressful time, you're not just being helpful, you are building a foundation of trust. And a resident who feels supported from day one is way more likely to be a great, cooperative tenant for the entire lease. So, building on that foundation of trust, the final piece of this whole strategy is to start thinking about financial wellness.
Moving is a really financially stressful time for a lot of people, and there's a huge opportunity here to integrate services that address their pain points while also benefiting your property.
So first up, rewards. A massive 72% of renters find rewards programs important, but only about a third of them actually have access. I mean, this is some of the lowest hanging fruit for building loyalty and just reinforcing your value month after month.
Next, the big one, the upfront cost of moving. Security deposit alternatives are valued by 65% of renters, yet barely more than a quarter of them are ever offered one. Providing this option removes a huge financial barrier to entry and can make your property way more attractive.
And finally, credit building. Nearly three-quarters of renters want their on-time rent payments reported to credit bureaus. It's one of the most powerful financial tools you can possibly offer because it turns their largest monthly expense into an actual credit-building asset for them. So the big takeaway here is that these services, rewards, deposit alternatives, rent reporting, they aren't just, nice to have perks. They are strategic business tools. They solve real, tangible problems for residents, and by doing that, they can create new revenue streams and really strengthen the financial performance of your property. And this all brings us to our final section, the performance advantage. Because when you put all of these pieces together, you close the tech gap, you personalize the experience, you integrate financial wellness, you shift from just completing transactional tasks to actually driving strategic business outcomes. And this is the core idea behind what we call real estate performance management. It's really a shift in mindset. So instead of just asking, hey, did we get the resident moved in? The question becomes, did our move-in process set the stage for better retention, improve our team's efficiency, and help drive future growth? So, I'll leave you with this one question to think about. I want you to look at your own operation and honestly ask, is your move-in process just a transactional hurdle that you and your residents have to kind of get over? Or have you turned it into a strategic asset, a true performance advantage that builds loyalty and drives your business forward right from day one? Really, the choice is yours.